Welcome to SportsBeat KC, the Kansas City Star's daily sports podcast. It's Monday, May 3rd, and I'm Blair Kirkhoff. The exhausting NFL draft is over, and every team got every player it wanted, right? Well, that's what they'll tell you anyway. It takes a few years to properly evaluate a draft class. For instance, did you know only one player remains on the roster for the Chiefs from the 2017 class? So, big failure, right? Nope. That one player is Patrick Mahomes. Today we'll hear from the Chiefs about the draft. We'll start out with Andy Reid, who met with reporters after the team had selected Missouri linebacker Nick Bolton and Oklahoma center Creed Humphrey in the second round. Excellent players, both of them. We'll see how their skill sets translate to the NFL. Bolton is seen initially as depth at linebacker. He called the defensive plays over the last two seasons at Mizzou and has that capability. It's the first time that the Chiefs have used their first pick to select a Missouri player. 5 selections later, the Chiefs picked Humphrey, who I think is the player with the best chance of starting as a rookie. He brings size and skill to the offensive line and is part of the position group's makeover that we will talk in greater detail about on a SportsBeat KC later on this week. So, after Reid on the first 2 picks, you'll hear from Bolton and Humphrey. So, let's get started.
All right, so listen, a college player from University of Missouri, and what you're going to get with him is just a all-out, aggressive, smart football player. Not the biggest guy, but very, very tough, great tackler, great ball skills, and in the pass game part of it, and tremendous leadership. So we look forward to bringing him on board. And then Creed Humphrey from Oklahoma, big kid that, again, is extremely smart. The thing you'll notice with him is he can snap with either hand, natural left-handed snapper, but he could do either one. It doesn't really matter. I mean, he's best probably with his left hand. That's his natural hand. But he's taught himself how to do it also right-handed. Great feet and work ethic, and then a big man. And so Creed will be a nice addition to that offensive line. My hat goes off to Brett Veach and his crew of scouts and really the whole personnel department there of just batting down and taking the best players at the spot once we got to this position, taking the best players that were there. It takes discipline to do that. And Brett did that, and I think we came out with 2 good football players. Obviously, time tells, but they sure were good college football players, and we think it'll transfer right into here in Kansas City. Both good citizens too, good kids, and they'll be great in the locker room for us. Anyways, with that, time's yours.
Let's go first to Herbie Tiopi. Go ahead, Herbie.
Hey, Coach. Good evening. Always a pleasure to see you as always.
Thanks, sir.
Hey, reference Nick Bolton, and I know you still have to go through OTAs and training camp, but based on what you've seen in his production at Mizzou, is he a kind of guy that you could probably project to immediately contribute, kind of like what you had in mind with Willie Gay last year?
Yeah, so he can play the Mike linebacker position, but he can also play the other positions there. So, yes, he can. We had a bit of an advantage that we have Andy Hill on staff, and Andy coached him, so and knows him personally, which helps. But we felt that he could help us in any of the 3 positions, and you can't have enough of those guys. We're a little bit short just on bodies, and at that spot, at our linebacker spot. So this helps us there.
Go next to Dave Scretta. Go ahead, Dave.
Hey, good evening, Andy. You mentioned that you took the best players on your board, and that's always the case, I know, but these 2 guys also seem to fit 2 of your biggest needs. Would you say that's pretty accurate, and how delighted were you that the board actually fell that way?
Yeah, well, we knew there was a good group of offensive linemen, and so you figured there would be an offensive lineman there potentially. You're hoping it was one that you liked. And then the linebacker spot was a bit thin, but again, the way it fell, this kid I thought it was a no-brainer when we got to that spot. I mean, you put on the film and you watch him play, and which I'm sure most of you guys have, that you just see he jumps out at you. So that wasn't too tough of a choice there. But and listen, there's some other good players up there. I'm not saying that, but these were two of the guys that Brett had targeted before we even got into the day here. So he was hoping that they would be there.
Let's go next to Adam Teicher. Go ahead, Adam.
Hey, Andy. Humphrey is now the fifth offensive lineman you guys have added, and counting the two guys who are opting back in, you're basically at a total makeover here at your offensive line. And it was obvious you guys were going to make some changes there, but was this maybe more than you anticipated when the offseason began? And Brad, I'll have one quick follow-up also.
Well, no, listen, we hadn't done a whole lot to that area for a bit, and we've got good players coming back too. So we've got this great competition that'll take place, and Adam, that brings out the best in all of us. So, as a player, you sit there, and I've talked to the guys about this. I mean, Brett's going to go do his job, and he's going to try to keep the competition high, and let's not run from that. Let's attack it. And what it'll do is, if you handle it right, it brings out the best in you down the road. So embrace the competition and keep on working to make yourself even better, and thus the team better. And that's what Brett's done with the offensive line. He's just added some great competition in there.
Yeah. Okay. And hey, we heard from Brett last night about Orlando Brown, but this is our first chance to talk to you since the trade. I'd like to hear in your words what you liked about him, how you think he fits.
Yeah. So Orlando, I mean, we know he's a big man. The part that you don't know is how much he loves football. And so he comes in and with a reputation here the last 4 years and during college of a kid that will be a leader in the locker room, leader amongst the offensive line, and also somebody that loves the game. And those are all important things to us. So he have to get in here and work his tail off, and he'll have to learn a few new techniques and that, again, all to make him better. And does he have room to continue to grow? Absolutely. Even though he's been a two-time Pro Bowler here the last couple of years, he's one of the great things about football. It's like being a farmer. There's always work to be done. So he'll do that. He'll get in here and work his tail off and get better. But some of those intangible things I sure like. And then again, we've had a chance to play against him here a couple different times, and he's a physical guy. So we like that too.
Let's go next to Nate Taylor. Go ahead, Nate.
Hey, Andy. Thanks for doing this. Just wanted to ask you what you learned about Nick and Creed in the pre-draft evaluations. Did you get a chance to talk with them on Zoom, and just what did you maybe learn about them that the tape doesn't show?
Yeah, so I sat in on the Zooms. I kind of kept back off on it so we could get accomplished what we wanted to get accomplished with it. And so the coaches, the position coaches, did most of the talking. The coordinators and the head coach, we kind of sat back and chimed in only when needed there. But it was great to let these guys talk about football, talk about their life, where they're at, how they perceive going forward here as a professional. And so I did listen to these two, and impressive. I've got a special place in my heart for Missouri, so I had to kind of sneak in on that one and listen. And then Orlando told us to go get Creed. When he was here, he goes, "There's a good one in Oklahoma. You need to take a peek at." So we had already had our eye on him, but it was neat for Orlando to put it out there to us that way.
We'll go a few more, and we'll start with Sam. Go ahead, Sam.
Hey, Andy.
All right, Sam.
How quickly do you feel like Creed can translate to the next level? And do you view him strictly as a center, or is he a guy that could maybe play some guard? Yeah,
he could do either. He's a good athlete, so he could, probably could play all three if we had to go that route. But, so We'll just see. We'll see how he does. I mean, it's a competition part of it. You know how Andy does it with playing the 5 best. And so he's going to give everybody an opportunity to show what they've got, and we'll figure it out. But that competition, I mean, I can't say that enough. You bring that competition in the picture, and it just makes everybody better. And thus, in this case, the offensive line better.
Let's go next to Pete Sweeney. Go ahead, Pete.
Brett, I'll just have one quick thing after this, but Coach, we won't get Steve Spagnuolo for a while. I know if you're taking Nick with your top pick, he had to sign off on this. What was his take, and what makes him a Steve Spagnuolo type of linebacker?
Yeah, well, he makes plays, and he's smart. He makes all the calls, or made all the calls at Missouri, and we felt like he could do that here. Steve did, and you love his attitude. You love the whole story. I mean, you guys are going to get a great story with this, and just with the kid and how he, came up through the ranks here. So, it's a good solid person and a heck of a football player.
And then just, I know you're not into comparing to previous seasons, but it seems like there'll be competition for at least 3 or 4 offensive line spots. How excited do you get about this in-house tape that you're going to get to watch, this training camp battle? It's going to be for really a lot of the offensive line positions.
Yeah, I mean, you guys know how I feel about it. I mean, you're as good as your offensive line and defensive line are. So, it's obviously important spots. So I love the competition that we've created. Like I said, we've had good players here. So, but this even adds to the competition level, and it should just make us better.
We'll go last to Derrick. Go ahead, Matt.
Hey, Coach. Thanks for the time as always.
You bet, Matt.
You mentioned that Nick is a little bit undersized. Is that just an evolution of that position, with the linebacker's role having to do more and more, especially with multiple receiver sets? And I mean, is that something that when you're going up against a team that's got a linebacker who can move around like he does and has that ability, that you got to scheme around a little bit differently?
Well, you guys know I'm familiar with small linebackers. I had a great one from Kansas State play for me, so at Philadelphia, and so this is no different. He moves around well. He can cover in the pass game, the RPO game. He's got a good feel for that, and he still can shed and get off of the big guys, and that becomes important. So it's. I'm expecting him to play as sweet as your shirt looks here.
That was Chiefs coach Andy Reid. Now let's hear from Nick Bolton, the Mizzou player taken in the second round, number 58 overall. He was the Chiefs' first draft selection because a team had traded away its first-round pick a week earlier to the Baltimore Ravens as part of the deal that brought Orlando Brown to Kansas City. Interesting note here is how Bolton knows Willie Gay Jr., the linebacker the Chiefs took in last year's draft. Here's Nick Bolton.
I'm going to go first for questions to Herbie Teope with the Kansas City Star. Go ahead, Herbie.
Hey, Nick, how are you, man?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
Hey, I'm well, thanks. I'm going to take you back to your pro day workout because if you remember, I asked you the question that the Chiefs had talked to you, and then I asked you also, how was your reaction going to be if you heard your name called? So it's happened. Your name was called on TV. What was your reaction and knowing that you are going to stay close and play for the Chiefs?
Yeah, so it's exciting. Just being there. Kind of where my career kind of started taking off a little bit. Being in Missouri, being around that community, being around close to University of Missouri, that's kind of good in my heart. So being close to Missouri, playing for the Chiefs, was one of the dreams come true.
Let's go next to Harold Kuntz. Go ahead, Harold.
Nick, see you in the Zooms again like we do at Mizzou. Good to see you. Hey, well, I want to ask you, obviously, the story with your mother and your sister. What was just give me your overall emotions, what happened when you finally heard your name called, and what the family was like and what that reaction was like for you?
Just a sigh of relief. That's kind of the biggest thing. All the hard work I put in to get this position, working day in and day out, trying to put myself in position to get my name called, NFL draft. It's been a dream of mine since I was 4 or 5 years old. So living it out, being with my family, being close to them, was a special moment for all of us.
Let's go next to Miss Karen Kornacki. Go ahead, Karen.
Nick, welcome to Kansas City. Just wanted to ask you, did you have any idea that the Chiefs were going to be the team with Andy Hill here and, of course, Coach Reid's background with Missouri?
No, I had no clue. I didn't know until a couple minutes prior to the pick. I talked to the coaches. I knew that they kind of liked me, being in Missouri, being kind of close. They could see me a lot, so I knew they kind of liked me a little bit. But I didn't know until the draft was called that they were going to pick me.
Let's go next to Matt Derrick. Go ahead, Matt.
Hey, Nick and Brett, I'll have a quick follow-up, but Willie Gay seemed to tip the pick a little bit, maybe talking about drafting you on Twitter, and it came true. How close are you to Willie, and what kind of conversations did you have leading up to the draft?
So I really didn't have any conversations with Willie. Interesting story. I was looking to go to college at Mississippi State. Willie was at. I went to a camp down there. He kind of showed me around. That's when I first met him. So we kind of have a little history. I talked to him a little bit at that camp. And so we kind of bring a little bit of communication and stuff like that. So that's kind of how I knew Willie.
And I'm curious, looking at this Chiefs team, I mean, obviously it's a Super Bowl contender, but how is it that when you look at this defense, how is it that you feel like that you fit in and can be a contributor on day one, like Andy Reid says he thinks you can be?
Just being smart and instinctual. That's kind of how I play. So I just kind of feel like bringing that to an NFL team, put myself in position to play. I've had the opportunity to. So just kind of being an intelligent player, being smart, playing fast, physical, tough. All the characteristics need to be a great NFL linebacker. I feel like I have those characteristics. And so I'm just ready to go out there, have a chance to compete.
Let's go next to Nate Taylor. Go ahead, Nate.
Hey, Nick, congratulations. My two questions are just what was your initial reaction when you got the phone call from the Chiefs? And then secondly, when you did meet with them before the draft, what did you want to convey to them that they may have not known, obviously just looking at you on the field?
So I looked at my phone, kind of looked at it for half a second and then just picked it up, answered it, just talking to the coaches and stuff like that. Coach Hill was at Coach Missouri for a while, so I talked to him too. So we were kind of familiar with each other. So I'm just excited to be here beside the program.
Okay, that was Nick Bolton, and now here is Creed Humphrey, the Oklahoma center taken with the Chiefs' second pick in the second round, number 63 overall. Humphrey's college career overlapped with that of Orlando Brown by a season, and I thought it was interesting what Humphrey said about what he learned from his former Sooners teammate.
We'll start first with our TV partner, Mick Schaefer with KSHP. Go ahead, Mick.
Great, congratulations. Welcome to Kansas City. Just wondering your overall thoughts on being selected by the Chiefs. And I think you overlapped with Orlando Brown one year down there in Norman. Your thoughts of pairing up with him again?
Oh, I'm so excited. I'm really close with Orlando. He's, helped me a lot. He's mentored me a lot at my time at OU. So, just being able to be on a team with him, I'm really excited about, and then be able to join such a great organization. I'm so excited. I can't wait.
Let's go next to Sam McDowell. Go ahead, Sam.
Hey, Creed. What were your conversations like with the Chiefs before the draft, over the past month or so? I mean, could you get a feel that they had this interest in you?
Yeah, it was good. I had a lot of conversations with a lot of teams, and, I felt it went really well when I talked to them. So, I knew what kind of organization I could get into if I came here. So I was, as soon as I got that call, I was just so excited. And I'm ready to get to work.
Let's go next to Harold Kuntz. Go ahead, Harold.
Well, I said welcome back with Oklahoma, with Orlando, and now I'm back in it again. Shawnee, Oklahoma, man. Shout out. Hey, when you were playing at Shawnee, I always remember your coach talking about you as dirty tough and doing all the little things. Just how are you going to adapt to the NFL with the same philosophy, that country strong toughness you bring to the table all the time?
Yeah, it's something I've always played with, and it's something that, I think it's helped me win a lot of matchups. So, I'm definitely, excited to, come in and, just start competing and start helping this team get better. I can't wait.
Let's go next to Blair Kirchhoff. Go ahead, Blair.
Great. I'm just wondering how nerve-wracking tonight was, and when did you start hearing that you might be drafted?
Yeah, it was definitely nerve-wracking. As far as when I was going to be heard that I was going to get drafted, we knew it would be somewhere in the second round. That's what we were thinking. So when I got the call, it was a huge sigh of relief. And then, I got the call from, the best organization in the country. So, I was just so excited, so relieved. And, now I'm just so ready to get to work.
Back to Pete Sweeney. Go to Pete.
Creed, congratulations. You had an opportunity to work with now 2 starters in the NFL, and Kyler and Jalen. How do you think that those experiences will benefit you now as you transition to hopefully being under center with Patrick Mahomes?
Yeah, I've had the chance to play with some good quarterbacks at OU, and it's a big help for me. Just their leadership skills, everything like that. It's helped me a lot throughout my career, and getting to play with a player like Patrick Mahomes, is so exciting just because he's so talented. He's such a good player. He can, change the dynamic of a whole game. So I can't wait to, get up there and start working with the team.
Let's go next to Nate Taylor. Go ahead, Nate.
Hey, Creed, congratulations tonight. You mentioned Orlando earlier. Just what do you think you learned most from him that's gotten you to this point, given your guys' relationship?
Yeah, just the mentality that he has every day that he carries on himself. He's a guy that's going to go in there. He's going to do the work that's necessary to get him to the next level he wants to be at. And that's something that when I got to OU, that's something I admired right away from him when I met him. Seeing him go in, work as hard as he can every single day, work hard in the weight room, during training, during position drills, whenever we were doing stuff on our own. And just seeing him do that and just the mentality that he has. And, he's such a mean player on the field too. That's something I've always, admired about him, and something I've always tried to, kind of copy my game after.
Hey, it's Blair. We have a special subscription offer for SportsBeat KC listeners, unlimited digital access to the Kansas City Star's award-winning sports coverage. Sign up now for 1 year of Sports Pass for access to all the sports news, features, and columns presented on the kansascity.com site, and it's only $30. That's a 40% savings off our regular rate. Your subscription will automatically renew after the initial term at $50 unless you tell us to cancel. Your subscription helps support the sports coverage of kansascity.com and the Kansas City Star, and that support has never been more important. Please visit kansascity.com/SportsBeatKC offer to get this special offer. And as always, thanks for listening.
Hey, Brett, just wanted to ask you about the one trade you guys made for Noah Gray to trade up with the Jets. I was wondering if you just walk through why it was necessary to go there, and then just your comments on why you wanted the player so badly.
Well, I didn't think, I shouldn't say we as a staff, I wasn't sure that this tight end class was super deep. Certainly everyone had Pitts there at the top of the board. I think that there was talent, though, throughout the draft. These guys were a little bit more, some guys were primary blockers, some guys had a receiving skill set. And early on, we took a liking to Noah Gray and just saw him as a really unique inside slot receiver, H-back, fullback. He's a little undersized for, being an inline player, but it's so hard to replace Travis when he's not in the game because he has such a unique skill set. And Noah has a similar, again, you don't want to compare anyone to Travis Kelce, but Noah has a unique skill set as a slot, bigger tight end receiver. Looking at the board and kind of working through that, Josh Kaindoh was a guy that, we were certainly interested in. And once we fulfilled that kind of need there at defensive end with Josh, we quickly looked at the board and, we knew that we wouldn't be able to get up all that high. So once we got into that range where we felt we can do a flopping of picks that would get us up, we were going to be aggressive. So we just had to wait. So we were literally waiting for 15, 20, 25 picks to go by. We had 2 different deals in place. We actually had the Jets at first, they weren't committing to the move. I think there was a team behind them that said they would commit to the move. And we had just said that if our guy was still on the board, we'd be interested. Once Jets got on the clock, they called us back and they said they would be interested, but we were really identifying that trade probably about 20 picks ahead. We were just waiting. We just couldn't get into that range. We didn't want to surrender a pick. We could have moved up even higher by just surrendering a flat pick, but we wanted to work in volume, and we identified a few teams that were willing to swap picks, and we were okay with shifting down later and allowing a team to come up higher later if we can move up a little in that 5th. But that was a guy that is, again, as soon as we selected Josh Kaindoh, we had our eyes locked on. We we called Josh and we welcomed him to the kingdom. And then as soon as we got off the phone, we were back in the draft room on the phone, calling every team to see how we can flop picks, get back up there and get Noah.
Let's go next to Sarin Petro. Go ahead, Sarin.
Brett, the second round, grabbing a center, you guys did a lot of work, obviously, in filling that position. You talked about kind of a sweet spot being that mid-second, maybe down to like mid-third or at least top of the third. Was there any conversation about maybe trading down and the fact that it was, you've turned that offensive line strength into the offensive line position into kind of a strength now to then go and put more resources into it? I would think that, maybe you didn't think Creed was going to be there and maybe that changed how you were going to do the dynamics?
Yeah, we were fielding calls, I would say about 6 to 8 picks before our selection at 58 and at 62. We had a couple teams offer potential trade down scenarios. And they never really materialized though. And then once we got on the clock and typically when teams call you, the deals are good. When you call teams, the deals are bad, right? So early on before 58, we had some calls and we were monitoring some situations and we were potentially open to doing that. As those 5 or 6 picks went by, the one team kind of backed out on what they proposed, and then there was no calls. And at that point, again, once you start making calls, then that means you're willing to take less in value. And then factor that in with having a guy like Nick Bolton on the board at 58, great player, and then again at 62, Creed Humphrey. I mean, the value was just way too good. Certainly, both those players we're really excited about and very fortunate to get.
Let's go next to Herbie Teope. Go ahead, Herbie.
Hey, Brett. Good morning.
Good morning, Herbie. How you doing?
Hey, I'm well, thanks. You guys didn't draft a safety this year. How much of that is a sign of confidence? A Matthew extension could be done sooner than later.
Well, look, I had mentioned earlier before, once we get through the free agency process and the draft, we'll sit down and last year, we were able to get a lot of our veteran players done during the summer and enough can't be said about Tyron and how we feel about him and his role both on and off the field here. But look, I mean, I had said earlier that once we were able to execute the Orlando Brown trade, that it really just opened us up to taking the best player available. And that was kind of the mentality we worked this entire weekend. We were just going to stay true to the board. We felt that, once free agency ends, you really like to go in the draft knowing that you can go out there and play in a game. And so again, once the left tackle position was filled, we felt like we can stay true to the board, take the best player available, because again, perceived needs this year, has no indication of what the need will be next year. And we're trying to build continuity and build for the long haul here. And again, as I mentioned, hopefully something gets done with Orlando. So you have him under contract for a while, Joe Tooney under contract for a while now, Creed Humphrey under contract for a while. So if you work with that mentality, take the best player available, you're going to have these guys under contract for 4 or 5 years. And again, once we were able to solidify that left tackle position, we really just stayed true to the board and took the best player available at every position.
Next to Adam Teicher. Go ahead, Adam.
Hey, Brett, how you doing today?
Hey, Adam, how you doing?
Good. Hey, Brett, was just wondering when the plan for the offensive line started to come together. I mean, I can't imagine that you got together the day after the Super Bowl and said, hey, we got to do something here. So just curious if you can sort of take us through a timeline, a little bit of what your thinking was as the time went on and then into free agency and even through this weekend when you got 2 players. And Brad, I'll have one more question as well.
Well, I mean, really, I would say that the plan had always been in place. And even at the start of the season, Austin Ryder was going to be a free agent. And, certainly Eric Fisher and Mitchell Schwartz were both getting up there in regards to years experience and playing in the league. So I think our eye was always on that as our college guys are on the road. And as we started to meet in free agency in that process and even before Fish got hurt, when we met, I think in early December or late November, our blueprint early on was, we're going to really solidify some offensive line play in regards to tackle depth, interior depth, and where can we find value in free agency. Now, certainly that plan got put into ultra gear after Fish got hurt, and then it was made aware to us that Mitch was going to get off-season surgery. It was on our radar the whole time, but I think the level of urgency just really picked up as soon as Eric got hurt and we got word that Mitch was going to get surgery. So again, I would say that was probably going to be our priority anyway in the offseason. We probably doubled down a little bit, knowing that some of the veterans that we anticipated back wouldn't be back either.
Okay, thanks. And also, and I know you said up at the top that you really weren't ready to talk about at least some of your undrafted guys that you signed. Does that go for all the guys? Because there was one I had a particular question about. Would that go for all of them?
Yeah, I mean, typically once we get them under contract, these guys are going to come in here and have to get a physical, and then we'll get them under contract.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but once those guys sign, we'll certainly make them available, and we'll be happy to talk about them.
Fair.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go next to Mick Schaefer. Go ahead, Mick.
Hey, Brett, just wondering, Trey Smith in the 6th round, what kind of value you think you got from him at that point?
Yeah, obviously we feel we got tremendous value, extremely talented player, great person too, smart. So listen, there's been a lot of talk about Trey and his fall, and I'm not a doctor, so I don't really want to speak on in regards to his conditions, but I think Mike Bergonzi was on the other day and he spoke about it. We did a lot of work with him, in particular, Mike Monaco. He has, I'll probably defer to Rick on this because I don't want to screw up the language, but, he had a situation he was going through and he tried some different medications and some of them worked, some of them didn't, but really put a lot of faith and trust in Rick and in his training staff. And then I would say that of all the players throughout this draft process, I don't think I spoke to Mike Monaco more about than Trey Smith. We had a ton of dialogue with him, and Mike was involved a lot in that process, not just with me and my staff and Rick and his staff, but also the people at the University of Tennessee, Trey's agent, Trey himself. So, Mike did a really good job of making sure he had all the information. And again, safety's the most important thing for us. And, I would say that in general, we're probably one of the more conservative staffs there are in regards to any gray. We're probably taking people off our board. So I knew early on that when Mike thought he had an idea of how to fix this, I thought that we were really on to something because again, any area gray, we're usually taking the player off the board because we don't want to put players in that position here in Kansas City. So feel good about the work we did on him. And again, if everything works out, you're getting a guy that obviously would have been drafted a lot higher, got tremendous upside with him. So we're looking forward to getting him here and having Mike and our trainers work with him and getting him up to speed and seeing if we can tap into all that potential.
Looks like we've got 3 hands up. We'll go right down the line, starting with Todd Lebo. Go ahead, Todd.
Hey, Brett, I wonder if you have any clarity yet on what the next couple of weeks will look like for these rookies, if you're going to get to have them here, have in person, and then if you've had any conversations with the leadership of your veteran team on whether or not they're going to be virtual or showing up for the OTAs yet.
Yeah. So as far as, the conversation with the leadership and the OTAs, Coach Reid's handling that with Pat and Tyron and those guys. And obviously our staff was just working on the draft. As far as I know, and these rookies should be in here next week and we should get this rookie camp off next week. So anticipating all these guys arriving here Wednesday, Thursday, getting a physical, getting geared up and getting out there and going through the first install as a member of the Kansas City Chiefs.
We'll go next to Sam McDowell. Go ahead, Sam.
Hey, Brett. When we talked to Ryan Nutt on Saturday, he mentioned that Powell was a guy that could be more of a post-up player. I'm just wondering, did you identify that as maybe a need for you guys, or was he just sort of the next receiver on your board and that happens to be his qualities?
It kind of worked out in both regards. He was, again, going back to the mindset we worked all weekend. He was the best player available, but he, ironically enough, did fill that kind of post-up position. He's a 6 foot, 210, 212-pound receiver. He's big, strong, physical. The production-wise, I mean, he had a monster year this year, but leading up to that, the production wasn't always there. He had some injuries that he dealt with, and obviously Clemson has a lot of talent. This year, he really kind of tapped into, that potential. And if you look at the second half of his season last year, that was good as any wideout in the country. I mean, he was just ripping off big game after big game and certainly showed what he can do versus Notre Dame and the bowl game versus Ohio State. So love his skill set. And for where we are on our roster, with McCole and with Tyreek. He's going to be a great complement, as an ex-receiver, got big size, really good after the catch, strong player. So just think it's a great fit and great value there. And we're excited to work with him and see how he can add to an already dynamic offense.
And we'll go last to Matt Derrick. Go ahead, Matt.
Hey, Brett, thanks for the time as always.
Hey, Matt, how you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. You briefly touched on Joshua Kaindoh earlier. But just curious, he's obviously has incredible skills and athleticism, tested through the roof. But, how do you kind of feel like he is as far as his development and maturity goes at this point? And how do you kind of visualize him fitting into the DN rotation this year?
Well, this is a prototypical Steve Spagnuolo DN right here. I mean, 6'5", 265, 268, 35 and 3/8 inch arm, I think. I mean, he's long, athletic. He has some work to do in regards to his development. So he had an injury a couple of years ago that really put him back. He had an ankle injury, I believe in 19, was off to a really good, maybe it was 19 or 20. I guess it was 2 years ago. I'm losing track of my years here, but a couple of years ago, he had an ankle injury, was off to a hot start, set him back. And then sometimes those injuries are slow, make it more difficult for you to return. And, he had some lingering effects off that into this season. But again, going back to the medical staff and the work we've done, like the way that's healed up now. And again, he's a guy that has a ton of potential, but his size, length, and overall skill set is exactly what we're looking for. Great kid, smart, will catch on quick. So we think he'll come in here and fit in right away. And, I think the more he gets to be with Brendan Daly in that defensive line room, we think that talent will come out. But I mean, we're excited to work with him skill set wise. I mean, he has all the tools you look for at that position.
That'll do it for today. Thanks to our SportsBeat KC production staff of Derrick Donovan, Beth Welsh, Monty Davis, Jeff Rosen, Chris Pickett, and Savannah Smith. Links to stories about the draft and the Chiefs can be found in the show notes and on kansascity.com. Hey, we have another deal for you. You can subscribe to Sports Pass for 99 cents a month. That's right, 99 pennies a month. Sports Pass is the online version of the Star Sports section. You get all the stories that appear in the print editions of the Star, plus many more stories that appear only on the website. After 3 months, it auto-renews at $5.99 a month unless you cancel. And what a great time to subscribe. The Royals start a homestand tonight, still in first place in the AL Central. Colleges are always making news, as evidenced by Kansas introducing its new football coach, Lance Leipold, today. And of course, it is never not Chiefs season. So how do you get it? You go to kansascity.com/sportspass2020. That's kansascity.com/sportspass2020. You want more than just sports coverage? Check out the entire Kansas City Star product. Sports, news, features, commentary, and analysis, the whole thing. You get all the stories written by my talented colleagues, plus additional national news, sports, and business coverage with the e-edition. The details for all of these deals can be found at account.kansascity.com/subscribe. If you're having trouble hunting down any of the offers, send me an email, bkirkhoff@kcstar.com, and I'll get you to the right place. So whether it's the Sports Pass or the full subscription, you're getting and supporting the best sports and news coverage in Kansas City and helping us produce programs like SportsBeat KC. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back on Tuesday with another episode.